You and I are going to start things off today talking about the Washington State Cougars, a team that, man, I was kind of hyping, thinking maybe they could go 11-1 last year at points. They beat Texas Tech. They had a really awesome start to the season, but it did kind of fall off towards the end. And then, of course, Jake Dickert moving cross country to go become the head coach at Wake Forest. They're importing a bunch of people from Middle America. They have a lot of coaching staff, players, and support personnel, I'm sure, coming over from South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits, headlined by, a program that has been a power at the FCS level for recent years. But that transition's always kind of been hit or miss. As you've kind of done your research on Washington State, what's kind of stood out both in this transition process and maybe we can start on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, I think when you look at the import-export numbers, the number one export from the state of South Dakota is Washington State Cougars, because they all came with Jimmy Rogers, the former head coach of the Jackrabbits, now the head coach up in Pullman. The offense is interesting. It's, I mean, stop me if you've heard this before. There are not a lot of familiar faces on either side of the ball, and certainly when it comes to Washington State and Oregon State had that happen last year with Jonathan Smith leaving for Michigan State. This year, it's Wazoo's turn with Dickert heading over to your fighting Demon Deacons. But I think the hire of Jimmy Rogers was an excellent one. And as the Pac-12 gets ready to kind of like a phoenix rise from the ashes in its new form, I think that Rogers is an excellent chaperone for this program to bring them into the new era of Pac-12 football. The offense this year is going to be led by Zevi Eckhouse, quarterback who stepped in the Holiday Bowl, I want to say, last year against Syracuse. They did lose 52-35. There was just nobody home on the defensive side of the ball. But Eckhouse really showed that he has, I think, the platform and the arm to take over as QB1. They lost a lot of production to the transfer portal and to the NFL draft. They had one of their top wide receivers get drafted last year. Kyle Williams is now a New England Patriot. Shout out to him. But overall, it's just going to be new faces and new places for Washington State. And so last year, behind the run and gun style offense that they had with John Mateer, they were the sixth scoring offense in the country. So I think, first of all, you've got to figure out who Eckhouse is going to be throwing the ball to. And I think Josh Meredith is one of the returning starters. They've got Devin Ellison and Trey Shackelford, the other two, kind of slotted in to start at wide receiver. You're going to have to figure out what the new identity of Washington State football is going to be. Over the years, it's been all offense, baby. It's been air it out, spread the defense out, and we're just going to nickel and dime you down the field. And then once you give us that opportunity, bam, over the top, or you've got a quarterback like John Mateer who can move with his legs. Rogers is a defensive guy, and we'll talk about the defense in a second. He's a darn fine one at that. And so we know, I think, what the vision for Washington State football on the defensive side is going to be. But with Danny Freund coming in, where does he make his name early? How does he support Eckhouse early is the biggest question that I have. The offensive line has two returning starters, but anytime that you're replacing more than half of that unit, I'm in major wait and see mode. So excited, I think, to see what the Cougars put together, but there's a lot of unknown right now.
Absolutely. And I think my biggest concern when I look at this team, obviously the amount of transition, I wonder if Eckhouse is the right quarterback for this offense. You think about, you mentioned it, the fun and gun type offense that Washington State was known for so many years. South Dakota State was not that. It was more of a run-based, pro-style offense.
Yep.
If they had brought in Mark Gronowski, if they would have got him over Iowa, I think I'd be really excited about what Washington State was capable of this year. I've also seen some clips on Twitter. I think it was Julian Digger, one of the younger,
yes.
Duggar, yeah. I am really excited about him, and there's a lot of hype for him on Twitter. So I don't know if that competition is fully closed yet as we sit here in mid-August, but
yeah,
there might be some options there if that's not working out. You tease the defense. Secondary looks like it could be the strength. They do have a little bit. That was kind of where they brought in some more of their high-profile transfers. They have a little bit of continuity there as well, but just like the offensive side of the ball, it is a full turnover from what they had last year.
Yeah, I think the linebackers have some veterans there as well. Parker McKenna, Keith Brown are returners. Um, but the thing that there's the Freudian slip. I knew it was going to happen at least once this episode. The thing that the Cougars have going for them is so many pieces from the 5th ranked FCS defense for the Jackrabbits are coming over. Now, will that transition? I don't know. We'll see. Sometimes it's hit or miss, right? You can have FCS guys step up and immediately make that transition. We talked about Florida State in our ACC preview. They got Jared Verse to just dominate right out of Albany. Will that happen up in Pullman on the Palouse? I don't know. But I do like the in a new place with a new team and a new staff to Pullman. I like that there's so much continuity in the folks that have been exported over. Last year, the defense was dreadful. It held Washington State back. It was what collapsed down the back half of the season, and unfortunately ended your Wazoo to the playoff hype train that you started driving. 102nd in scoring. They were 124th in passing defense and 119th overall. Now, the thing that they did have going for them was that they were +8 in the turnover margin. So I think key number one for Washington State, find a way to limit the offensive possessions. If you can give your new look offense as many cracks, as many bites of the apple as you can, that I think is how Washington State maybe starts to have a really fun season, and how you go from maybe you call it a year zero rebuild, maybe not, based off of kind of the acclaim that's coming with Rodgers and company. But those are the rungs on the ladder to bowl eligibility that I think, as you knock off more and more of those, a bowl game and maybe even beyond starts to look probable.
Well, there's a long list of coaches that have made the jump from those FCS powerhouses up to FBS football and been really successful. I'm thinking about Chris Kleiman at Kansas State. I'm thinking about Scott Satterfield, I believe, was at North Dakota State. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
Not sure on that.
There's been several that have made the jump from the Dakotas and been pretty successful at the FBS level relatively quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a schedule that can set them up for a nice little run here as well. It's not too difficult. I think it's going to be some good challenges. They open with Idaho and San Diego State, an Aztec team that I'm quite honestly not really sure what to expect from this year. They kind of feel like a program that's just kind of lost its rudder at this point. And then they have a really tough 3-game stretch after that, though. It's at North Texas, back home against Washington, the Apple Cup. Obviously going to be a very emotionally charged, passionate crowd for that one, with the way that all the conference realignment drama is shaken out. And they go to Colorado State for that mini 3-pack. And it's a Rams team that came in just a whisker away from making the Mountain West Championship game last year. A really solid program that they're building there in Fort Collins. And then they continue the road trip. There's no home games between Washington on September 20th and Toledo on October 25th. There's a bye week after that Colorado State game. And then they go to Ole Miss and to Virginia all the way across the country. So very brutal stretch there in September and October before it kind of chills out just a little bit when they get to the home and home with Oregon State and a trip to James Madison mixed in there as well. But it feels like a schedule that they could scratch and claw their way to 6 wins.
Yeah, I think a bowl game could be on the cards for the Cougs this year. You've got to make your hay early, right? And I wrote this in the North Texas preview because the Mean Green are going to be a team that needs to get their feet under them early, especially with so much new transition in Denton. That game in week 3 against the Mean Green in North Texas, that may be one that I see if I can sneak up to cover for us here at the 3 Tech Pod. But I think the winner of that game feels a lot better about the start to their year. And if you're Washington State and you can knock off half of those wins to a bowl game really before the season's even gotten started, right? I mean, even before the rest of the country starts to cool down temperature-wise, then maybe spring an upset in the Apple Cup. I think you and I are both very high on Washington. I don't know that we would project that right now, but it's a rivalry game, man, and weird things happen, and it's up on the Palouse where better teams and bigger brands go to die. I mean, that has just been true for Washington State through the years. So I would love to see like game day up there, getting to cover that game and getting to honor the Apple Cup, even though they're not in the same conference anymore. Colorado State is interesting. We've gotten a lot of comments in our Twitter feed, specifically high on the Rams of Colorado State, projecting even Colorado State maybe to win the Mountain West this year. So that's certainly a game you can't sleep on. Hard to project a win against Ole Miss and even Virginia on the road. Those are just going to be tough spots. But if you can come home, if you could somehow find a way to knock out Toledo and then at least split that home and home, we might have buried the lead. The fact that there's a home and home between Wazoo and Oregon State, man, it's epic. I love it. I love that they've leaned into it before they rebuild the Pac-12 and we can get the full conference slate. But I think the goal for both of those teams should honestly be defend home field, and if you can go spoil the other team's week on their turf, then that's just kind of the cherry on top.
We've never seen anything like this before
No.
that I can remember. I can't remember an in-season home and home. Obviously, you get in the NFL and the divisions every year, and that's kind of the goal for a lot of those divisional games where they're evenly matched, just win on your home field. And yeah, I think that's the path to the bowl. I think if you split that home and home, you win your home games against G5 and FCS competition, all of a sudden you're right there at 5 wins. If you can just do that. I know Toledo's not a pushover. I know La Tech's not a pushover, but you're right there at 5 wins, and you just need to find a way either in an upset against Washington, like you said, or finding a way to win one of those road games against North Texas or Colorado State, and you're in a bowl. And I think that would be an amazing accomplishment for Jimmy Rogers and the Cougars in year one.